Xerox is a company that probably doesn't cross your mind very often these days, but they're responsible for countless innovations in the computing world. From the graphical user interface that ran on the Xerox Alto, which is pretty much the great-grandfather of every GUI out there today, to a wired network connectivity standard that you probably know as Ethernet. But today we're going to focus on a rather interesting and perhaps forgotten piece of Xerox software called Rooms. It's a shell enhancement that brings multiple desktops to Windows 3X. Yeah, something that Windows lacked as a standard feature for an embarrassingly long amount of time. Prior to Windows 10's release, if you wanted this functionality, you'd have to rely on third-party programs or that Windows XP power toy Microsoft released in the early 2000s. Now, I had known about some of these programs, but I was surprised to learn that there was a tool all the way back in 1992 that gave you this ability, and that's what we're going to be exploring today. Xerox Rooms comes on a single 5¼ inch floppy diskette, and we're going to open up the file manager here to get it installed. And the installation process is extremely basic. You just run setup.exe, select the directory you want to install it to, and that's it. It's been installed. We're going to launch it, and you'll get the splash screen here, Rooms for Windows, and it will then take over the user interface. Now, it does not completely get rid of Program Manager, and that's why this is not, technically speaking, a shell replacement, because Program Manager is still running in the background, and if you close out of that, you will end your Windows session. But you do get this main screen here that does take over Program Manager in the sense that it's not the main window anymore. This is the main interface for Xerox Rooms. And if we go to the About information here, you'll see this is version 1.0, and you can see it says it is the Microsoft Windows implementation. There was another version for the X Windows system available as well, but functionality-wise, they kind of let you do the same thing. Now, this main interface here is called the Overview, and it's designed to be running in full screen at all times, so you can't minimize it, you can't shrink the window down to a smaller size, and by default, it will create two rooms for you, Overlay and Room number 1. Now, Overlay is unique because this is kind of like the parent room. Any changes you make in here will take effect across all of the other rooms, so if you open up a new window or change window positioning, those will happen in all the other rooms. And it also comes with this demo room, Room number 1, that you can just hop into and mess around with. Now, it's got this little text document here, which is kind of like a README overview document that just takes you through and tells you some of the things rooms can do. We'll just close out of that for the purposes of this video, but it is very useful to read through if you were back in 1992 using this software. So each of the rooms, by default, when you create them, will have a different desktop background color. But they also have this image down here that lets you know what room that you're in if you wanted to make all the backgrounds the same color. But I think having them different is extremely useful because then you can mentally associate, like, oh, this teal color here is room number 1, and let's say this is my work room. In fact, let's go back to Overview here, and we'll change this. So we go to Rooms here, we go to Rename, and let's rename it as Work, and hit OK. Now let me go and create a new room and call it Games, and we'll hit OK. You see it automatically creates with a different color, in this case a nice background pattern. But we can change this if we want to. Let's go to Program Manager here, and we'll open up Control Panel and go to Color, and let's maybe change the background to, let's see, this kind of dark blue color here. So we'll hit OK. Actually, let's maybe change that to like an orange. That's a little bit easier on the eyes. Yeah, I think that definitely looks better. So now let's go back to Overview here, and you can see it just looks nice. I don't know, just having all these different colors to separate these rooms. One thing you unfortunately cannot do is change the Windows theme per room. So if I'm in here in the Games room, let's go to Color here once again and change the color scheme to Arizona, or well, it's kind of already set to that. Change it to Emerald City and hit OK. So it'll change and apply the entire theme, including the background color in here. But if I go to Overview here, all these other rooms, they will still retain their background color, but the window color scheme will change. So like, let me go into work here. You see, whoops, we'll talk about that in a moment. We go to work here, it's that same color scheme is applied. Now you saw when I double clicked on the program manager, it kind of popped out that window. That's another nice feature too, is that you can, from this bird's eye view, peek into your different rooms and see what you've got going on. So like in games here, I've got control panel open. I can double click on that and I can see the window. And I can just, you can't really interact with it. If you just click on it, it'll close out of it and bring it back into the games room. Say I want to move control panel over to work. I can just do that right from here. I move it over here, now it's in the workroom. I go in here, there it is. We go back to overview. Say you want to move this to the overlay and have this be in every room at the same time. You just drag it over here, and now it's going to be in all the rooms. Work here, it's got behind program manager here. But yeah, there it is. Now, these little icons here on the desktop are called doors, and they're your way of transporting between these rooms. You can also get between rooms by moving your mouse to the left or right side of the screen, and you can just jump between them instantly. So here's overlay, here's games, here's overlay, here's work, and then if you move it up to the top and click, you'll jump back to the overview room. And this is definitely the easiest way to get around, at least for me personally. I much prefer this than clicking on these icons, but these icons are useful if you had like a bunch of rooms and you wanted to jump to a specific one. You could have in work here, for example, maybe I want to change this overlay door to be for the games room. So I just select that, and now this will be my shortcut to games. The door down here at the bottom left will always take you back to the room you were in previously. So I'm in games now. I can double click on that and go back to work. Now I was previously in games, game shows up down here. If I jump up to the overview room and jump into work, or actually get into the room, now it will show overview down here. So it's just very easy to like navigate around in here. It's awesome. You can also use those doors to move windows to other rooms without leaving the room you're currently in. So let's open up Microsoft Word here in my work room, and we'll just shrink the window size a little bit here. And then I can go to this door down here. We'll click on it. We'll go to Windows, and we'll move window to room. We'll select Microsoft Word, hit OK, and then select Games. And we hit OK, and now we go into Games, and there it is. That simple. We'll jump back to work here. This is the one icon that you cannot remove. You can get rid of these two icons here if you want. So say you want to, just get rid of that games and get rid of overview here. But yeah, this is the main door. So when you click on this, you get this pop-up menu with all your options for moving windows around, jumping to different rooms. Now, one of the really cool things that Rooms does, and this is kind of like a bonus feature, I guess, but it allows you to create shortcuts on your desktop and actually use the Windows 3.1 desktop as like a real desktop. Because the way Windows 3.1's desktop works is you can only have running programs on it as icons. It's kind of like a taskbar in that sense. I can't move Internet Explorer and just have it resting on the desktop. I have to open it up and then minimize it, and it will be down here as an icon, and then I can move it around. So like the clock here, Rooms has running in the background by default, but if I open this up and then close out of it, that icon will disappear. Now, because I'm an overlay here, again, if I go to Games, that Internet Explorer window is going to be there. But let's say I've got Microsoft Word running in Games and I minimize that, it will be right here, and then if I jump to work, it won't be here. So that is the nice thing. You could have programs running in each of these different rooms and minimize them and then have them appear on the desktop. And if you're fine with that, then that's great. But what if you didn't want to have all these programs running at the same time? Or what if you had Write running and you go here, double click on it, and then accidentally close out of it? And you're like, oh crap, now I got to go back into Program Manager and find this and open it back up and then minimize it. Well, this is where Rooms buttons come into play. So I can click on the door down here and go to Create Button, and then I can give this a name. So let's call this maybe Solitaire. And then under Command, you can put in any DOS command or the name of a Windows executable. So we'll do sol.exe and hit OK. And now this icon will permanently be on the desktop and it will open up Solitaire. And even if you close out of Solitaire, it will still be here, which is super useful because this is, again, this is not how Windows 3.1 functions at all. This feature wouldn't be introduced in Windows until 95 came along. That's when you can actually have icons on the desktop for programs that weren't running in the background. So I really, really like this. Now, unfortunately, you can't change the icon of the button. It's just going to be this default yellow icon blob thing, which is not the greatest, but I mean, you can still tell from the name of it what it's supposed to open up. Overall, I think this is incredibly fascinating, and I'm quite surprised I hadn't heard of it until I just came across this by chance when I was looking for alternative Windows 3.1 shells. And this is definitely one of my favorite ones so far, hands down. I would have absolutely used this if I was, you know, back in 1992 running Windows 3.1. And I guess for fun here to end off the video, let's just create, you know, a ton of rooms here, because I'd like to see if there is a maximum. Yeah, I'm not really seeing an end in sight here. I'm just creating room after room after room, and we have an absolute ton of them. Let's see if it... Oh, wow. What are the odds of that? Okay. Alt-R-W. And yep, it's going to move all of them over and create an... And now you can't even see the titles of them anymore. So yeah, I mean, it looks like you can create... I mean, there's no way you're ever gonna need this many rooms. But the program does support it, however many rooms that we've created here. Now, the nice thing, too, is you can have multiple suites of rooms, as they're called. So right now, we're in the default suite. That's what STE stands for. But if we go to File, Save Suite As, and let's call this, you know, mess.ste. Oh, an error has occurred in your application. Perhaps, general protection fault. Yeah, I would highly suspect that's because we have way too many rooms. When you restart, you have to start rooms every single time, so we'll do that. And let's see if it opens up that mess of rooms. It looks like it's trying to do that. Error in script. Oh, gosh. Okay, let's just make a new one and not save it. There we go. Now you can start and make just a proper set of rooms. In fact, let me open up File Manager here, and we will just we'll just get rid of that. So it installs to the C rooms directory, and we'll just get rid of mess.ste. Like I said, really powerful piece of software. I really like it just for the shortcuts functionality alone. But yeah, guys, there you have it. That is a brief demonstration of Xerox Rooms for Windows. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up, get subscribed, all that good stuff. And as always, I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.